Now we turn to former US Army Brigadier General Tata and author of the book Dark Winter. Thanks for joining us, Tony.
Great to be here, Scottie.
Well, General, Secretary Hutchinson today still maintains that Russia's actions are to blame for such provoking such an aggressive response. Do you agree?
Well, yes. Russia has developed a few years ago. In 2016, we learned that they had a land-based cruise missile with a nuclear warhead on it, essentially. And that's in violation of the INF Treaty, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty. Anything that flies between 500 and 5,000 miles is outlawed. Gorbachev and Reagan signed this treaty back in 1987 to begin getting rid of all these nukes that were littering the world, actually, and it made NATO actually much safer. You think about that 500 to actually 3,000 mile range, and that's all of the NATO countries in there from Russia, and so what we see is we've got a more dangerous world if Russia is violating the INF treaty. And so what do? There's a dilemma for us, right? We either shine some sunlight on it and get some transparency, or we begin to match them in capability, which creates a secondary arms race that I don't think anybody wants.
Well, no, but Russia has denied that they are in breach of it. So, I mean, do we actually take government for their word for what they're saying, and which allows the U.S. refuses to accept this answer? But how can we in the West expect Russia to trust the U.S. after all of these years that we've also not necessarily kept our promise and word?
Well, we have pictures of it. We have radar intercepts of tests of this missile. We have all kinds of evidence that this exists. So it's not really whether or not Russia's telling the truth. We know they're not telling the truth. And so this is gamesmanship, it's statesmanship. And what Ambassador Hutchinson said, she walked back her statement from a quote-unquote preemptive strike to them complying with the INF Treaty, which has been our official position all along. I do believe that Secretary Mattis and team will recommend to the President that we take some steps to counter this and ramp up the escalation diplomatically and perhaps begin to develop our own capability that can counter this.
Well, that's my question for you. Why is it smart from a military perspective for Russia and the United States to continue to be more aggressive against each other instead of taking steps to actually work together to fight maybe a bigger enemy that exists in the world?
Well, I think that's what President Trump is actually trying to do with
Is he
Putin.
doing it? Then why aren't we having this around him? We always hear Russia, the great demonization of Russia, by most in his cabinet these days.
Well, I think, that there's a lot of politics beneath all of that, but when you look at what the president's trying to do, he's trying to normalize relations with all of the leaders that are kind of on the hit list around the world, whether it's Kim Jong-un or, even Venezuela or Iran or Russia, and he's trying to get negotiations going. The president's not an interventionist. He doesn't want to go to war, and so what we want is for them to comply with the treaty and actually take it a step further and begin to dismantle more nuclear weapons. That's what the administration would like. But right now, we cannot leave ourselves unprotected if indeed, which we know they have this land-based cruise missile with a nuke on it that can range all of Europe, for example. We have to be able to protect our allies, and they rely upon us to do that.
And, well, I think the question here is, do we trust each other? And that comes from both sides. And the military. Thanks for joining us, General.
Thank you, Scottie.
Thank you.
Hey, YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.